Chris, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
No problem. Chris, I put everybody in the hot seat when they first come on, so I'm not sure if you know this or not, but in 10 seconds or less, what is it that you do?
I mostly work coaching people for strength, fitness and performance, but as a side hustle, I also do a lot of work with helping people sleep a little bit better.
Nice.
That was quite quick. I've got a stammer as well, by the way, so if I stammer, it's not the internet connection or anything going, it's just my stammer. And the problem I have as well is it gets worse when I'm tired, and I've got a 3-week-old baby downstairs in a minute, so I'm not getting as much sleep as I usually would. So coinciding with doing this podcast, I'm also getting less sleep, so my stammer's a little bit worse than normal. So at least that'll provide some entertainment today.
I've literally written down here in bold writing, congratulate Chris. So yeah, congratulations, man.
Thanks, mate. Yeah.
And just even given the circumstances, like I messaged you I think a week ago, and you were like, Dave, I just have a new, I just became a dad. Was it like the day before or something like that? A week ago?
I don't know. He's 3 weeks old this week. No, 3 weeks old yesterday. So yeah. I can't even remember when you messaged me. My life's a blur at the minute, I won't lie.
So no, just highly appreciate you coming on such short notice. But yeah, Chris, so you're a coach in a private training facility over in the UK, and you are kind of a sleep coach as well, for want of a better word, I suppose. Correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, give us a bit of background on that. It was college, you did your degree on sleep for athletes, was it?
Right, so I've got a bit of a weird background, right? So I left school. I loved science. Well, I didn't like science. I was good at science at school, and I left school and just rebelled against education in general. And I joined the army, where I did bomb disposal as my main role. But I was a weightlifter by passion, so I did powerlifting for the army, and I did quite well. And then I got involved with your strongest man type stuff. I got involved with that. So I got fed up with the forces, as great as it was. Some things I didn't like with the politics side of stuff. So I left, and then I was just pursuing that as a hobby. I did quite well. I made it to, I actually won UK's strongest man under 105 kilos back in 2013.
Oh, wow.
But got injured as a result of it. Not just that comp, but just my training in general, because it was rubbish. So I sought out a guy called Sean Cole, who owned a gym, and I knew he specialised a lot in rehab. And he worked in a gym with another guy called Dan Reed, and together they just sort of changed my outlook on training, essentially. And I quickly realised, actually, I really wanted to be involved in sport, but I was done as an athlete competing in weightlifting, not just because my mind said so, but my knees did as well. So I went to uni and studied sports science, and that was just my logical step. And as a result of my research in my final year, I wrote a lit review on improving sleep habits of strength athletes, the benefits and how to do so. And that just fueled a bit of a passion of mine. And ever since then, that's just been the area that if I'm pursuing education, that's sort of the area I like to go down. I'm just finishing my master's now, and hopefully maybe I can go a little bit further than that, down that avenue, or something within strength and conditioning. And then for the last, I think it's 6 years or so, I've been working with Sean, because I just hung around like a bad smell until he gave me a job. And then I've been working with him, coaching all the opportunities in the world, meeting people like yourself, everyone else in the IFBA. I've trained athletes that have gone to the Olympics. I've trained athletes in rehab. I've helped people with their sleep. I've networked my way to do stuff like this at gyms. So I generally just coach people. Not just in training, but now it's also in sleep as well. So I suppose I am a sleep coach, but I don't think there's actually a title for what I do. I just merely try and help people in a functional way to get more sleep, really, just in simple, effective ways to do it.
Yeah, brilliant. And it was funny because this wasn't planned, Ratton, but I was reading, I'm sure you've seen this one.
I love it.
Yeah, Matthew Walker.
It, yeah.
I was reading this as I was going to sleep last year, and it's very kind of science heavy and number data driven, this book, and I was like, oh no, I need to put that down. So ended up leaving it for a few months. I knew the bones of it, and I skipped straight to the back page where it has the practical steps for sleep. But I'm very OCD. If I pick up a book, I have to read every single page of it, even the foreword and the acknowledgements. Yeah, I'm weird like that. So I actually finished it off over the last few weeks, and one kind of closing note he left with in that book is that it needs to be put into schools. It needs to be made more aware. Like, there's so many things, and when you read that book, you're like, wow, there's so much money pumped into marketing behind drink driving, for example, but yet there's more deaths behind people who are sleep deprived. Obviously that's coming from the US, but I'm sure it's similar across the world. But I might ask you more about that in a while, because it'd be interesting to get some of your thoughts on it. Because when I read some of the stuff in it first, I was kind of like, is he exaggerating some of those studies, and going deep into studies where they're kind of done on spiders and rats and stuff like that. But interesting to see what you think of those bits. But yeah, look, I suppose, Chris, first basic question I have is, sell me on the benefits of sleep. Why is sleep so damn important?
Well, I think I personally think it's easy to sell the benefits of sleep. Like, if you name anything to do with health, performance, body composition, you name anything, and sleep makes it easier, or actually makes it possible. So, if we talk about body composition, right? So, when you're tired, and sleep deprived, the hormones change within your body, and you eat more. But not only that, you don't go to the fridge and grab a bit of cucumber. You're straight in there, and you're going you're grabbing a chocolate bar out the other side, because your body's craving high energy, calorie dense foods, because you're tired and craving energy. So essentially, you're going to eat more calories, and it's going to be probably calories that you probably wouldn't have eaten otherwise from the junk side of things. But not only that, what's one of the most interesting pieces of research that I've had recently, that I've read recently, is it came out, and it basically said that even if you are one of those people that's so dedicated to their nutrition and lifestyle that, but when you're sleep deprived, so even if you can stick to your diet, your training plan, if you are sleep deprived and your target is weight loss, then the weight loss you achieve has a higher chance of coming from losing muscle mass than it does from body fat, which obviously is not what people are after. Now, they didn't specify the mechanisms as to why, but when you look at the other things that sleep affects, it becomes quite obvious, really. So during deep sleep, your body releases all these like anabolic hormones. So everybody knows what anabolic hormones are. Bodybuilders take them to get big and lean. Athletes take them to get strong and fast. Cancer victims take them to build muscle again. So these are effective things, and your body produces them naturally, but it produces the majority of them, almost all of them, during deep sleep. So if your body's not getting these, then it's not getting these anabolic hormones, which are so pertinent to most people's fitness goals, essentially. So that's really important when it comes to performance. From like a cognitive side, the skill acquisition, the memory recall, the making rational judgments, anything along those lines, it's hugely important. But what is been shown to have a real effect of sleep deprivation is your perceived exertion. So if you're tired, you're not working as hard as you think you're not working as hard. You think you're working a lot harder than you actually are. So if you were to run a 10K, you think your running pace is much more intense than it actually is. So obviously that then relates back to body composition, because you're moving less, and the work you are doing you think is a lot harder than it is. But when it comes to performance, it tends to affect your motivation, etc. And if the time we're in now, this pandemic we're in, has taught us anything, it's that our health is not to be overlooked. And a lot of these podcasts or just fitness advice in general overlooks general health, I find. And sleep has been linked to everything health related, diabetes, stroke, obesity, cancer, Alzheimer's, that's massive. And you've said one already here, like having an accident when you're in your car is much more likely to happen when you're tired. Now, if that doesn't alert people to the benefits of sleep, I don't know what does, because you can't perform in whatever your goal or whatever you want to do or be with your family if you're injured, you're ill, or if you're dead. So yeah, the benefits of sleep for me are beyond. And I can't remember what podcasts I used to listen to. I block listen to podcasts, so I'll listen to every episode of a podcast if I like it, and then I'll move on to the next one. And there was a podcast I listened to a few years ago, and it was at the end of it, they used to ask every fitness professional that was on there, or S&C coach or scientist, whatever it was, what is the one thing you would do to improve people's health and fitness?
Is this Danny Levens?
Oh, it might be actually. Yeah, it might
is,
be.
yeah.
Yeah, but I think like half the people that on the podcast I listened to were all like, sleep. I'll get people to sleep a little bit better. And this wasn't people that were passionate about sleep and educated people on sleep. It was just general people within the industry, and they were all people saying, I would get them to sleep better. So yeah, it's massively important and not to be overlooked for sure.
We could probably we could probably spend the next 50 minutes talking about the benefits of this scenario and that scenario.
I mean, if you're not careful, I will. So, so yeah.
But
I'll try and keep it concise.
There's nearly so much in the benefits like that. If you were to sit someone down and start explaining to them, they nearly wouldn't believe you because it's so incredible. Like there's so much. And even lately, I think probably the last 3 years, I've started to really take my sleep a lot more seriously than I used to. And because I'm getting a little bit older, like I'm not 21 anymore, for example, I'm 29 now, but I find that when I don't get at least 7.5, 8 hours of, quality sleep, I call it, my productivity goes out the window. My mood is just, my mood is down. And I'm aware that my motivation to train is down. When I'm during training, and this is something that I've actually never thought of before, you just said it, was my exertion is up way higher. And it happened to me yesterday. I'm dreading the session I have today, but I'm going to do it and get it done because I want to chill out for the weekend. But those things are massive for me. And when I'm somebody who, like, Joe, I want to be a strong, healthy, fit person and pass that knowledge down to my kids and be that role model, will say, like, it's me as a person, like, And when things go against me as a person or jeopardize that, I feel very strongly about it. So if I don't get sleep, I can't be that person. I can't really enjoy my training and see my progression with my training and, come away from that thinking, oh, that was good now, whatever. Tough, but good. I'm happy with it. Where yesterday, just a bit of a shitty sleep week week of sleep this week. Yesterday's training was just a slog. And what I'm trying to say, without going 10 minutes talking here, is that I really notice when I don't get enough sleep. And I'm probably more frightened now of the fact that when kids do come along, what the hell's going to happen then? So I'd be interested to hear as well, Chris, how you're managing that at the moment. I know it's only 3 weeks in, but we might get to some practical stuff
sure,
down the line in a few minutes. But we talked about overall benefits. What about this word that's thrown around a lot, Chris, at the moment, immune function, especially with COVID-19 and everything going on? People pushing supplements around immune boosting and all this kind of stuff. I think there's probably a talk.
You go in the sleep, and this is the problem with supplements, unfortunately. And I don't really talk about supplements at all when I do any of my sleep workshops or anything like that, because as soon as people know there's something they can buy that might mildly benefit sleep, and there's not many, they deem that the thing they should try. Rather than dealing with the big rocks, they go for these small things on a supplemental basis. So when you're talking about immune function, there's no greater, immune booster for me than having a good night's sleep and eating a balanced diet and getting some regular exercise. And I hope anyone listening to your podcast already sort of kind of understands that a little bit. But if they want to relate to it, when you're really ill and you've got a cold, what is it that you want to do all the time? It's sleep, right? You're drowsy. You want to get some sleep. That's because your body's ability to recover your body goes into optimal conditions to recover when it's asleep, not when it's awake. Which is why when you have a cold or any sort of illness, or you're in the hospital, your body is trying to sleep because it's trying its best to help itself. So even though you can't see that when you're healthy, that is happening because sleep is recovery. Essentially, it's the reset button on your body that helps you to recover overnight. And if you're not getting that, then you're not going to be healthy, and you're going to be more susceptible to not only injury but illness as well, like you said. I'm not a doctor, so like a lot of people talk about it suppresses this and it does this and does that. My understanding from what I've read is purely it's immune system building, and I see no reason to go down a route to prove it otherwise. It's quite clear for me, and even if the research does come out saying else, I can't see how it ever would. But for me, when I have a headache and I go to bed, I wake up without a headache. When I have a cold, don't feel better before I go to bed. I feel better when I wake up in the morning. So for me, sleep and immune function go hand in hand, really.
I think people realize that though when they get a good night's sleep, you know how you feel the next day. I think one thing that's after sticking out in my mind, I'm just going to highlight it again, is that thing where you said how we feel like we're exerting more. That's after really striking a chord with me, because I'm thinking back to some of our clients that I know that are definitely sleep deprived, and they're wondering why they can't progress as much as they want to each week in the gym and whatnot. It's just a very highlighting factor. But that probably
Do you use MyZone in your gym?
Yeah,
you do. So MyZone, if anyone listening hasn't got a MyZone, it's sort of like a heart rate monitoring system that the gym I work in and the gym you work in has. And essentially these tiles come up on the screen where it says what percentage of your heart rate you're working at. Now, everyone always thinks when they can't get to the red zone that it's a result of their heart rate being faulty on MyZone. And sometimes it is, occasionally. A lot of the time it's because they can't produce enough power on whatever exercise they're doing in order to tap into that heart rate zone. But quite frankly, a lot of the time it's because people are fatigued and they think they are working harder than they actually are. So when they think they're in the red zone and should be in the red zone because they can't do any more, they can, but they're tired and can't.
And Chris, have you, just on that MyZone topic, have you ever seen somebody who constantly hits the red zone because they are actually like under recovered, or have you seen that? I mean, not that they constantly hit the red zone, but their heart rate probably doesn't recover as quick in between sets and that kind of stuff. Yeah,
so definitely that. So if you use it as like an auto-regulatory sense when it comes to training, so like if I'm working with an athlete, for instance, and they come in, because I work with Gem Pop and some athletes, if I'm working with an athlete, for instance, and they come in and I'm speaking to them and I said, how did you sleep last night? And they're like, I'm really, really tired. Then you can tell that in the session sometimes, purely for the fact that, one, their motivation goes down, but also their ability to recover in between sets is hindered. And as a result, you have to adapt the session accordingly. Now, MyZone almost lets you do that. So because you're using the heart rate set system, you can, I personally, for me, if I had the capacity to, I would say, right, I want you to rest for a little bit until your heart rate drops back down. Now, the fittest of the guys in the gym, not just athletes on any level, if they're tired, they will see their heart rate drop down slower. And I'm not talking about the level it's at, but I'm talking it's speed at which it drops down, because naturally what will happen is they probably won't get their heart rate that high in the first place, but it will look much more flat than it would someone who was rested, who was able to get high, low, high, low. It would tend to sit more in the middle where they're not getting as high and it's not going as low as a result because their recovery's dropped.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it's perfect. It's why MyZone's such a good system on our end. And obviously people are only going to benefit from that really if you're in a gym and you can see that stuff live. So there's a lot of people, sadly, that probably would never benefit from that if they don't have one. But even now at home, like all our clients are transitioning online during this time, and everyone they have their MyZones out, they have their phone, the live kind of tiles up on their phone, that kind of stuff. But it's actually nice you touched on that, because anybody listening that does have a MyZone, everyone just tries to always mindlessly chase that red zone, like without any kind of context behind what we're doing. So a large part of our education in the gym is telling people, like, it's not just about this magic red zone. It doesn't give you the results you're after type thing. But I suppose the biggest highlighter from that is the fact that you're under recovered and we can see that live, which is brilliant. Have you noticed through your research with athletes, Chris, some other, we'll say, eye-opening stats that we could probably dive a little bit into? I know we talked about at the start, we're not going to go too sciencey with this or too data driven, but any kind of big eye-openers that you'd like to share that you've seen through your own research?
You mean like stats around athletes and
like I've seen some around injuries and the performances of a team and that kind of stuff. Have you seen much in that regard?
Off the top of my head, like I wouldn't put myself out there and quote research as gospel unless I'm really sure about it. I do less of these around the athletes than I do the Gen Pop. So I know a lot of the Gen Pop research, but not so much the athletes. But yeah, there is research out there. There's a woman called Shona Howson, I think her name is, from Australia. She's put a lot of research out there. I'm trying to recall back now to my lit review I did. But yeah, there is research out there that suggests a lot of things. Injury and coordination. There's one out there for quarterbacks in America of American football, and it was their ability to recall and to make the right decision. So a lot of the performance effects outside of the anabolic hormones, body composition, and perceived exertion, a lot of the performance effects are cognitive. So it comes down to making the right decision, being as reactive, reaction times, etc., accuracy with throws. There's one out there for free throws in basketball.
Yeah, I've seen that today, actually. I was reading back over that one.
And so there is a lot of research out there. For me, like, I think people already know, like, the benefits of sleep. I think athletes out there know they should be getting sleep. And the research is great, and it highlights that. For me, like, the area that people need is getting more sleep, and effectively getting more sleep. Because for me, the big problem in sleep, it's a bit of a side topic, really, but the big problem with sleep and getting people to get more sleep is when people help people to get more sleep, it's just, right, 7 hours is optimal, and that's the advice. Yet, you go down the nutrition route, it's okay, right, we're gonna try and eat slowly, we're gonna stop, we're gonna put our knife and fork down, we're gonna select different foods, we're gonna aim at an individual level, so you're not going to go into too much of a calorie deficit. But sleep seems to get given this 7 to 9 hours. If you don't get that, no point, mate. And if you're looking for optimal, 7+ hours is optimal. But for someone who's, Trevor, plumber, 72 years old, not slept more than 3 hours for the last 25 years, for him, 5 hours is better than the 2 or 3 he's currently getting. So that's the thing we need to go down. If he's currently doing everything negative to help him get more sleep, let's change a few things at once. So that while there's loads of research out there, saying the benefit of sleep, it's almost like scare tactics to try and get people to get more, when actually it's not. It's behavioural change and habit forming that people need, and relatability to try and get more. And that's where I found that actually, where all my work that I've done has changed massively, where I used to sort of be this science guy that uses research for scare tactics. And a lot of the Matthew Walker book is that. And it's a great book. I'm not saying it's not. I love it. But like, for people, they don't need that. People need they need to have a little bit of information, but then what they need is help and empathy and coaching ability to help them get more sleep, just like they would from training and they would from nutrition. It's another thing that needs to be coached, not told.
It's why habit coaching forms probably the foundation of what we do, like as Doc Fitness does as a company. Like nutrition, we go down the scientific principles and we adhere to those and tweak that to the individual and start slow and build up. But that starts slow and building up and doing stuff that's realistic and sustainable. That's all come back to habit formation. It's the same with training. You're not going to go into a gym and start squatting 100 kilos if you've never squatted before. Same with sleep. It's the same with any habit. It's the same with probably every single human behavior that you do. Yeah. So, and
the most important thing is adherence, right? It's the ability to keep doing what you're doing. So if we go through 6 strategies in a minute, there's no point, if you're not doing any of them, doing 6 and giving up after a week. Yeah. I would much rather you picked one and did it for the next 6 years, and you would have a much better benefit on your sleep than doing 6 for a week. And I think that's what's key. And sleep hasn't quite reached the level for me where it's done on that. It will soon, but it's not quite reached the level where it's a habit taught thing, commonly anyway.
Like, I noticed firsthand, and I'm appreciating habit formation and behavior change so much now because it's so involved in the coaching that we do daily. But from my own personal standpoint, I'm sure you've found this yourself, Chris, over time, when we try to change stuff, just because we teach it doesn't mean that we're someone who can take on 20 different things at once. We're the same as everyone else. And I've tried over the years to implement loads of stuff at one time with sleep, and even waking up earlier and getting a routine. And every single time it was just unrealistic, unsustainable. Then I end up not giving a shit about it, and it just goes out the window, And then I'm circling back around to it then 6-7 months later when I kind of get the want to do it again. And it's the same with diets, it's the same with training. Like now, it's now I'm starting to implement change. Like a big one for me lately is having a cutoff time at night, and I will start setting an alarm for that soon, because even for me, like we talked about sport and sleep. Now, obviously, my sport, hurling in Ireland. I'm sure you know what hurling is. You have an Irish passport. You better know what hurling is. We're obviously not hurling at the moment. So, but the way our training has been the last few months, it's been like 8 o'clock at night, and I'm up at 5:15 the next day, and I have a bit of a commute to get to the pitch and back, and that's before I even eat or shower. So my sleep has literally been all over the shop, and I've been probably jet lagged, nearly feeling like I've been jet lagged for weeks on end. So now I actually have the opportunity to sleep, and it's highlighted more than ever, like the importance of that. But having a cut-off time so I can wind down effectively, because we don't just go to bed and fall asleep straight off the bat. Like, well, I know I don't anyway. I know some people do, depending on the line of work that they do and that kind of stuff. But going to bed for me now is winding down, low lights, book, doze off, and a book that doesn't overstimulate my brain. You know, one that I can get lost in. Or, funny enough, I know I've said this in the last few podcasts as well, but I've gone down a rabbit hole of reading Auschwitz and Holocaust books over the last 2 years.
Okay.
Every single night, and it literally knocks me out. Like, you know, some people are like, how could you read that stuff? But yeah, I suppose we've prefaced the practical steps by emphasizing the importance of baby steps. Take your time with this stuff. But where then would you like to give advice on starting with this stuff, Chris? How can we make it better?
So before we get into that, I think there's two reasons the body sleeps, right? And that's a buildup of sleep pressure, which is a buildup of a chemical called adenosine, which is when that builds up, it's received it's sensed that there's a buildup of it, and that just goes like that. From the time you wake up in the morning, the more activity you do, the more this chemical's released. It builds up. That's number one. That also needs to be in line with your circadian rhythm, which is your body clock. So everyone's got a body clock within them. And that starts off where you get more and more awake as the day goes on. There's a slight dip in the afternoon, which is why you get that afternoon lull. There's another rise again. There's a slight dip in the early evening, and then it keeps rising until sort of, late night. I say 11 o'clock, but it can be plus or minus a few hours depending on whether you're a morning type person or an evening type person. And then it drops off. And when you get your best sleep is when there's a drop off in circadian rhythm. But there's also a high amount of sleep pressure. So that's quite important to understand, because anything we talk about, it's going to affect one of those two things. And I'll probably refer to it if I hadn't said that, then I'd be referring to stuff that people would be going, what the hell is he on about? So that's really important. When it comes to starting with addressing sleep, the most important thing here is it's individual, and you should focus on the stuff. You should control the stuff that you can control. So when I started doing these, I used to just give out the science. At the end, I used to just get fired loads of questions like, but I'm a nurse that works night shifts. What can I do? Yeah, but I've got a newborn. What do I do about sleep? And I quickly realized that I wasn't going down this route we've talked about, where I was actually coaching people to get more sleep. So I think, you have to give people autonomy and educate them so that they're able to apply it themselves and figure out what works for them. But, like I said, I've got a newborn 3 weeks old. And the key for me is I can't do anything about some of the times that I'm getting woken up or when I am going to sleep. However, I can control things that are going to help me get better sleep. And in regards to them, they're what I'm going to focus on. Now, some of them have a big effect and have little effort. So I'm probably going to hit those ones first. Some of them require lots of effort and have little effect, but they would help. But because they require a lot of effort and it's minimal result, I'm probably not going to focus on them too much. I'm going to go for the big bang stuff that is going to help me get better quality sleep, that I don't have to get loads of stuff done. So I've just had a WhatsApp, and it really annoys me when it pops up because I end up reading it. So so I would focus on the stuff I can control and not the stuff that I can't, essentially. So where I would start with this is I would start on the stuff that I know that I'm going to talk about now. If I was listening to this and I heard these strategies and loads of stuff came up that I was going, well, I'm definitely not doing that one, but it seems quite easy, that would be the one I would start with personally.
Okay.
If we're going to go down the strategies, you happy to go down to the sort of things I'd recommend?
Yeah, I think it's a good way to go down.
So with 90% of the people I've worked with, for me, the main thing that people are getting wrong is caffeine consumption. The reason being is there's a few myths out there which need to be dispelled around caffeine, because caffeine for me is causing havoc with people's sleep. It's the most widely consumed stimulant going. It's the most widely consumed psychoactive drug. it is, you know, I don't know the exact statistics, but I imagine everybody in some form is consuming caffeine on a daily basis. How many of them are consuming it in the afternoon and evening? I don't know, but 90% of the people I work with, that's the first thing we address. So caffeine works by, do you remember I said the chemical builds up in the brain?
Yep.
And the more that chemical gets there, the more tired you get, your sleep pressure goes up. So what caffeine does is it blocks the receptors that chemical is going to. And as a result, rather than your sleep pressure going up, it sort of levels off in the middle when you've had your caffeine. And then once your caffeine is cleared from those receptors, you get a massive rise and a big spike in sleep pressure, which is why you get that caffeine crash when, you know, your coffee's worn off and you're a little bit more tired. So, yeah, that's really, so caffeine is hugely important. Now, a little bit of story about caffeine, right, is it's quite funny really, because I've literally been swapping decaf for caffeine drinks in my family, friends, my in-laws, in the gym, kitchen, anywhere I can for years, and nobody has ever noticed when I've swapped it over. The reason being is one of the biggest things, the myth I get is decaf tastes like rubbish. If it does, it's because you bought a very cheap version. If you buy a good quality tea or coffee in the decaf version, I've yet to have anyone make a difference. So my grandpa, who's in his 90s, he approached me and asked for some help getting some sleep because he'd only had 1 or 2 hours a night for months. I imagine years, to be perfectly fair. And he asked for some help. And before I got the chance to sort of offer some advice, because, you know, being his age, he's quite stubborn, doesn't really accept help that easily. So before I got the chance to have to tackle this with him, his health deteriorated a little bit. And I ended up doing his shopping for him. So guess what I did when I went shopping? My grandpa only consumes gin, whiskey, coffee and tea, really, I think. I'd not known him to drink much else, maybe a bit of orange juice every now and then. So when I went shopping, I'm never going to change his gin and whiskey habits, that's fine. But I just stopped buying caffeine, and I just bought his normal tea and coffee, but in the decaf version. And he didn't notice as long as I was doing it and he wasn't aware, he didn't notice. But before I had the chance to help him with his sleep, he let me know that he didn't need my help anymore because it had sorted itself out, which is great. And fortunately, his health improved so much that actually I didn't need to do his shopping for him anymore, and he was able to go and do it. But unfortunately, because he believes that because he believes decaf tastes like rubbish, he ended up going back and buying his normal versions, and as a result, he's gone back to sleeping 1 or 2 hours a night, waking up and not sleeping. So, but it becomes down to the behavioural change, and some people aren't ready to change, and unfortunately he's one of them that I've not been able to get through to yet. But yeah, caffeine's huge. And the two things that the most resistance I get with caffeine is I get two statements. Number one is, yeah, but I'm able to drink a coffee before I go to bed and I sleep just fine. That's the first one I get. So that's not true. So even if you can go to sleep, the sleep you have, because your sleep pressure is no longer as high, because your sleep pressure is leveled off, but your circadian rhythm's high, that's why you're able to get to sleep and you've had a little bit of a dip in circadian rhythm. But because your sleep pressure is not as high, your body won't go into as deep as sleep, and chances are you'll wake up a little bit during the night, whether you remember it or not. So instantly you won't get as deep a sleep and as high quality sleep with caffeine. That's number one. Number two is that people say, well, I've been drinking coffee for so long that I'm desensitized to it. Now, you can become desensitized to coffee's stimulant effects, the one that gives you the buzz. When you have your first coffee when you're about 14 years old and you've got the Stevie Wonder hand because you drank so much of it, that soon goes because you become desensitized to caffeine's effects. Unfortunately, the receptors that become desensitized aren't the ones that affect your sleep. It's a different receptor, and they do not become desensitized no matter how much caffeine you consume. So no matter how much coffee you've drunk previously, it is affecting your sleep. And whether you go to sleep or not, it's still affecting your sleep. And all the people I've worked with, the first thing I'll get them to...
Oh, hang on, I've lost my sound.
Sorry, my AirPods have been doing so many of these, they've run out. Anyone I work with and that has been sort of ready to change and has applied some of the things I've suggested, the thing I always get feedback on, always, 100% of the time, is I gave up caffeine and I didn't think it was going to make a difference. But oh my God, I'm never going back to drinking caffeine in the evenings again. It's that powerful. So much so that, and it's so easy to apply because decaf is honestly, it doesn't taste any different. I beg people to go out there and just try it. For me, it doesn't taste any different, and I've yet to have anyone that's really noticed a difference between the two. Because it's such an easy change where you just buy a different type of tea and then you can keep drinking it and you don't have to change any habits, but it has such a large effect. For me, I won't work with anybody one-on-one that's not willing to make that change, purely based off the fact that it's almost a bit of a test, really. If they're not willing to just buy a different tea, then they're probably not willing to try anything else I'm going to suggest. And as such, there's probably not much point in carrying on that work. So if people can take one thing from today, for me, it is try giving up caffeine around lunchtime, and it will have a positive effect on your sleep, whether you notice it or not, or you attribute it to the caffeine or not. It will have a positive effect, massive as well, usually.
I really like, though, how you're not forcing them to actually give up the habit of drinking that beverage, and you're just
and then that's the habit change. So if you read in the books on habit change, it's all about making a positive change rather than a negative one. So it's changing a habit rather than removing it, because that becomes almost impossible. So if you can change the habit, where actually you've just got to alter it a little bit, and then you can keep doing it. It's a whole lot easier than saying, right, give up smoking. It's much easier to give up smoking if you replace the smoking with something else, or you change it a little bit, as opposed to just giving it up altogether. So yeah, definitely decaf is, and that's why it becomes so easy, really. So just literally buying a different tea or coffee, and the benefits are huge, in my opinion. Well, not even opinion, it is.
Yeah. No. I think I experienced that firsthand, so I just naturally stopped having coffee. Yeah, usually I'll try and have it. Like, I have 2 cups drank now. That's me for today done. But because I've had shit sleep this week, I'm feeling like I want another one before I go training. But I'll usually try and have it cut off midday anyway, because I remember I used to be having some 4 or 5 p.m. between 3 and 4, and I used to always notice that I'd still just be lying in bed at night wide awake, like. So fully on with you in that one. And you said the 2 things that I was going to bring up anyway. What about the people that say, I drink coffee in the evening and I'm grand, I can fall asleep after. I could drink a cup of coffee and fall into bed. It's another one I get. You said something there now as well that's after coming into my mind, but it's after swiftly going. This is the effects now of low sleep.
The effect of loss of sleep.
Yeah, genuinely. I was having a chat with our members this morning, so we're having like breakfast chats 3 mornings a week at the moment, because we're not physically in the gym. And because we usually, after our sessions in the gym, we'll have a coffee machine, and we just gather around that after some training sessions. We'll have a chat. So we're doing these breakfast chats, and I was chatting away about something, and then I was like, just completely put a blank straight in the middle of it. So my story was completely pointless, even though I know I had something good to give my clients. I completely forgot about it halfway through. So yeah, the productivity side for me is a big one that kind of tanks fairly quick when I'm sleep deprived. But we'll keep moving. Caffeine. Okay. I remember what I was going to say now, actually.
Some more Oh, you remember? Cool.
I remember. What you just mentioned about replacing the caffeine for decaf. And I fully agree with you as well on decaf. Decaf is not bad if you try out high quality coffee. Like, I'm a bit of I classify myself as a coffee wanker these days, because me too. Yeah, I give a shit about coffee. But I just, life's too short to be drinking shitty coffee in my eyes. So
yes,
I've only built this up over the last few years. But if you replace with quality decaf, it's feck all of a difference. It's the exact same thing when we're trying to change habits for somebody that likes cans of Coke, for example. Like, if you change that for a Coke Zero, yeah, sure, it mightn't taste the exact same for the first few times you do it, but you will develop. It's probably, I'm going down a different route now here of taste buds and whatnot, but you will not even notice that down the line. And I actually prefer a Coke Zero now over a can of Coke. It's the same thing. You're not changing the actual habit, but you're just altering it slightly. Caffeine, one of your biggest ones. What is your next biggest one, Chris?
So just quickly before we leave caffeine. So we talked a lot about tea or coffee, but
we're not leaving caffeine. Don't worry, we're never leaving caffeine.
So like Coke as well has got caffeine in it.
Yeah.
Anything with energy written on it's got caffeine in it. Green tea, anything like that's got caffeine in it as well. So that's quite important to remember. As for my next one, The next one I include early on because it's so easy to do, and it's not a habit you've got to change. Well, it's not always a habit you've got to change. So the environment which you're going to sleep in. So your body is designed to sleep when it's cool, dark, quiet, and comfortable. If you've ever tried to, sleep outside on a gravelly beach that's busy, it tends to get a little bit harder. So your body is designed to sleep in the nighttime, and for good reason, because your circadian rhythm likes it cool, dark, quiet, and comfortable. So your bedroom should replicate that. How you go about that is completely personal. But for instance, if you have a fan on, for instance, that's going to make it a little bit cooler. If you have curtains that block out light better, they're a bit thicker, they block out light, it's darker. If you close the window and get a fan, for instance, you're able to close the window and that might stop road noise. You might have earplugs you put in to make it quieter. You might have ambient noise on to drown out noise. You might have a mattress that's got a spring loose on it, so you get a new mattress. You might have a lumpy pillow, so you swap it over. And all those things, they're not really challenging anyone's core beliefs, are they? So they tend to have minimal resistance. If I turn around and someone's, I'm not sleeping very well. Okay, let's look at your pillow. Okay, spend 10 quid on a new pillow and it will solve a lot of the problems. So I tend to get quite minimal resistance on people changing the environment, with the exception of the missus and the heating. For some reason, she thinks it's got to be really hot in the bedroom. I'll tell you now, science says 16 to 18 degrees, I think it is. So yeah, that is what it should be, and that's what your body likes for sleep. So it might just be a case of, instead of having the argument with your missus about the heating, you get a 4.5 tog duvet instead of a 13.5 one, and as a result, she's happy because the heating's on, but you're happy because you're not sweating in a duvet. So I talk about the environment because that's quite important. Is that you give your body the best chance of sleep by promoting a really good environment, and it's quite easy to change. So I usually tie that one in with the decaf, and I'd get people to do those two first.
Brilliant. Yeah, I'm with you on the my wife liking a hot room as well, and
yeah,
I purposely now it's really warm, so I'll go up and open the window before we go to bed. But that, I don't know why, but that's okay. But it's more so when she's in the bed. It's like it could be the middle of summer and she still wants a hot water bottle.
Yeah, it's mad, isn't it?
But
I'm quite looking forward to 30 years time when she starts having hot flushes, and I'm going to insist that the bedroom remains the same temperature all year round, 25 degrees, even though you're having a hot flush.
It's a funny one. One question I have on that, Chris, is: have you looked into any stuff around pillows, memory foam pillows, duck feather, thicker, smaller?
Again, I think we're talking about small, very small benefit rather than big rock. So I try not to go into too much detail. What is going to make a big difference is whether or not it's comfortable or not.
Yeah. Because I used to get on that rabbit hole.
You do that. The only thing I would say is something that promotes heat moving through it. So natural fibers tend to be a little bit better, purely from a temperature sense. But quite frankly, if you find an artificial material really comfortable and you don't get hot, then who am I to say any different?
Yeah. I've kind of tried and error a few things over time, and I've come to like the kind of firmer memory foam style pillow versus the really, really light one that my head can flap all over the place.
I really like a cheap pillow. I don't know why. A cheap thin pillow. It's not got lumps in it, but I like to fold it in half. God knows why. I just it's just something I do. My missus is fuming because they go lumpy within a month or two, where I keep folding them up in the middle of the night. And but yeah, it's what I like to do. So I just buy a £5 pillow every couple of weeks.
And my mother-in-law's house, their mattresses in that house are insane, unbelievable.
Really?
Yeah, they've always valued high quality mattresses. High quality bed linen is another one I absolutely love.
Oh yeah.
I
was introduced to jersey cotton bed sheets. So it's it's not Egyptian cotton, where it's it feels different to normal cotton people are used to. But t-shirt material, 100% cotton t-shirt.
Yeah.
It's that, but imagine the old, the t-shirt that you won't throw away because it's so comfy that it's got little bobbles on it, but it lets the heat out really well. I cannot get enough of bed sheets that are made from that material. I've got 4 or 5 sets, so much so that if I go to someone's house, I usually take a jersey cotton pillow at least with me.
Yeah, but the sleep I get if I was over in my mother-in-law's house, like it's unreal. The difference is mad. Because where I am now, the mattress isn't the best in the world, so I'm looking forward to upgrading that when we move into the house. But caffeine, sleep environment, brilliant points. What's the next biggest rock, or would you?
So the next one I've included because it's super effective, but it's maybe a little bit harder to do. Otherwise, I'd have this higher. So managing light. So we've already said your body's designed to go to sleep when it's dark. Now, what happens when your body sees light is it suppresses a chemical called melatonin that initiates sleep. So if you can relate to that by in summer, it's much easier to get up in the morning when it's bright outside because the light is suppressing the sleep hormone of melatonin alongside some other hormones. But in the winter, it's much harder to get up because that's not happening because it's dark outside. So I mean, people should understand that and sort of relate to it, really. So if you imagine lights suppressing sleep, essentially, it's not always the sunlight that's the problem. So devices, so mobile phones, laptops, tellies, they all emit this blue light that replicates daylight that essentially suppresses that hormone. Now, I'm fully aware for a lot of people, like getting to switch off all their devices and just sit in a dark room is not a logical solution, even though that's what's recommended. So there was some research that came out not so long ago that looked at the efficacy of night filters on phones, and it showed they have a mild effect on sort of reducing the light effects on the hormone. But what was more effective was applying that filter, but also turning the brightness down. So while the optimal is to not have anything on, for most people, what a better solution is at least apply the night filter. Turn the brightness down, and if you can, just don't take it in the bedroom with you, because that's been shown to have an effect. That is highly effective for most. Another option is to get these blue light glasses that have orange light on, but most people are quite resistant about wearing them because they look like a bit of a wally in them. So again, while I might suggest that, people tend not to pick up on it too much, but for those that are really dedicated, they're really effective. Now, that's quite negative about sort of reducing light. So I try to make it positive by what you can do, which is applying a filter and the brightness. Then you can pretty much not too much effect on your habits. But one thing you can do is the sooner you can get outside in the morning and get out in the sunlight, the sooner your circadian rhythm will kick off receiving that light as a signal to be awake. Now, what that also does is it not only makes you more alert, etc., in the morning, but it actually limits the effects of light exposure later in the day. So getting outside in the morning and applying these night filters at night tend to be the route that most people go down rather than just getting off technology altogether. And if you've ever spent like all day outside and you get quite tired when you get in, and that one of the ways that is because your body no longer takes as much of a cue from the light inside your house as when you get to sleep. So yeah, managing light's really, really important, but it comes at a bit of a cost. You know, some people, I get in from work sometimes at 9:30, and sometimes I just want to watch Netflix for an hour, and for me to say like, don't do that would be quite effective because actually that's some time I enjoy spending with my missus. I've been at work since 6 o'clock in the morning until 9 o'clock at night. I want to just spend the time with the missus watching a series that we like. Yeah. So the option is these glasses I have on now actually have a filter on them. It's not really effective, but it's a blue light filter, but it's not as effective.
I was going to ask you, yeah, I noticed that, right?
Yeah, but the orange ones, because I've got prescription lenses, because my eyes are awful. The prescription ones for me are like 270 quid, I think they are. But for anyone else that doesn't have eyes like mine, you can get them for 40 quid, and that's realistically what I would do. Because all of them aren't like big Edgar David style like glasses like Robocop. They do ones that look just like these but with an orange lens, and that's what I would be getting if I didn't have prescription lenses. Yeah,
like even now I have a setting on my phone at 8 p.m. every night. Night mode, whatever it's called. Yeah. Android is my one. It comes on at 8 p.m. and I actually do bring the brightness down to 0 as well. Because for me, it's just common sense. If I'm looking at something that's really, really bright, it's going to keep me awake. And one that I always say to people as well is like, if you have an LED super bright mirror in your bathroom, don't turn the fucking thing on at night. Like,
no,
you're there going in, picking at your face before you go to bed or brushing your teeth, and you have massive light coming into you. If you've done all these other steps before you wind down for bed, you've done blue light filter, and maybe you've switched off Netflix at a good time, so it gives you that wind down period. I think you're nearly just undoing it all by shoving that LED in,
definitely, yeah.
you know.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's a good point you raised as well, Chris, on those glasses, because I bought a pair of the orange ones back in the day, broke them, that was grand. Bought another pair 2 years ago off Amazon, 20 quid a pop. The orange ones for myself and my wife, both of us haven't worn them. I think I wore them like maybe 2 nights, and then we didn't wear them because even though no one knows we're wearing them and it's in the house and it's just us, we just don't want to wear them because you look like a tool, you know.
yeah, exactly. So, which is why you can just go down the route that, like, people, even though that might be the best, you know, tech off is best. If you can't do that, then the orange light's best, but people aren't probably going to do that. So better than nothing is the other two, which is, you know, these which got a slight blue light coating, or just putting the night filter on and turning the brightness down, you know.
Yeah, I got like probably the same shape ones you've on there. I bought 2 cheap ones off China. Don't know if they're absolutely terrible or, you know, are they doing anything at all, but look, we put them on now for watching Netflix, and we put them on for that 2-hour wind down period before bed or whatever it is. But again, you mentioned something really important there, and it comes back to the practicality of it all. Like, you are now a father. Things are not going to be perfect for you. You mentioned coming home late for work. I only get, like, if I'm working in the gym, me and my wife are the exact same. She's a nurse. She's home at after 8:30. I'm home similar times, if not later sometimes. So having that wind down period with that person, yes, you're shooting yourself in the foot with sleep maybe, but you've all these other effects that need to be done, other things that need to be done in general life. Like, so I suppose practicality for parents, like, what are you doing right now yourself for sleep?
So my missus understands how sleep is important to me. And she's been great. She's breastfeeding as well and doing a great job of it, which means that actually I can't do a great deal unless she puts some in a bottle for me. So I'm sleeping in a different room. We built a nursery, which I thought was going to be a great idea. But now it's only me that sleeps, and now I pull out bed. So essentially I can't control everything. So what I can't control, I don't try to. I don't get worked up about it. But my missus will have him from sort of 11 o'clock at night till 5 o'clock in the morning, which gives me 6 hours. At which point, you know, I was up at quarter to 5 this morning because she brought me in and said, like, you know, I need to get some sleep. So that's absolutely fine. She handed him over, and I had him in till I did one of these. I started at 11 o'clock. So I did that, and that's how we worked it personally. Obviously, it helps that, well, it doesn't help. It's not, they're not saying it in a positive sense, but where this is all going on and everyone's working from home at the minute, it's lucky enough that she can get some sleep between 6 and 11, because usually I'll be going to work then. But what I do is I focus on what I can control. So, you know, I can't control the baby being awake, but I can control if, you know, I'm going to bed at 11 o'clock and I know I am. I can control whether or not I drink coffee before I go to bed and then have poor sleep because I've drunk loads of coffee before bed. I can control whether or not my room is cool, dark and quiet. I can control whether I'm on my phone or not. I can control some of the other strategies we can cover in a minute. And it's about focusing on what you can control. The same goes for anything. If you're a nurse and you work in night shifts, you can't control the routine. You can't control things, but you can control caffeine. You can control blackout blinds. You can control stuff like that. And that's what people should focus on, because it has a large effect. It may not be optimal, but you can't control the optimal because of things in your life that are going on. So don't worry too much about them. It would be my advice. And I think and that's what's so important about this, is focus on what you can and do it well, rather than the stuff you can't control, because it's out of your hands, and actually getting worked up about it will actually affect your sleep in the long run anyway. Yeah,
I was just going to say that if you're worrying about not getting sleep, it's going to have the knock-on effect of not helping you sleep.
Sure.
So and
that ties in quite nicely with, like, the next strategy really, and that is if you're worked up in bed about anything. It could be work, it could be like personal relationships, it could be like a busy day the next day, or like an exam you got coming up. That's usually one of the reasons that I find people struggle to sleep. And there's some good ways around it, and it's quite individual really, but you just do whatever you can to relax, as long as it's not have a coffee, you know, or watching telly without the filter on. As long as it's not one of those and it's not negative, then it's positive. So some people like to listen to, like, you know, like relaxing music. Some people like to meditate. Some people like to have a conversation with their loved one. I personally, I like to write down my thoughts onto paper before bed. So I'll plan my next day, and I'll write down anything that's in my brain as a bit of a brain dump, and that helps me wind down before bed. One app that, even though I don't really mention it, it's something that's come up in every podcast and every sort of online one I've done so far. And that is, there's an app called Headspace. There's others available, but Headspace itself is the one I know of. And it has a lot of stuff on there for sleep. It has breathing exercises to try and promote sort of relaxation. It has stories that relax you. It has ambient music to drown out other sounds. But it has something on there called Sleep SOS. Now, these are like 10-minute sort of combinations of ambient music and breathing meditation to do in bed. Now, these are perfect for someone that actually struggles with that routine in bed and dropping off to sleep, because they can promote that. But also, if someone's waking up in the middle of the night and can't get back to sleep, it's something they can pick up, put on, and it's definitely worth a try for, trying to get back to sleep in the next 10 minutes or so from waking up.
Brilliant. So that's kind of caffeine, environment.
That's covered that one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Caffeine, yes, we've done caffeine, which is probably the most important. Always try that. Environment, light, winding down. I've got two. I got another two. So this next one is hugely effective, but it's probably the hardest one to apply. So it's routine. So whatever your body commonly does, it gets very good at. If you go to bed every day at 11 o'clock and wake up at 6 o'clock the next morning, your body will get really good at starting to release hormones just as it gets to 11 o'clock, so that as soon as you get to bed, you'll get to sleep and you'll go into a good quality deep sleep. Likewise, as it approaches 6 o'clock in the morning, your body will start releasing hormones to wake you up, so you start coming out of sleep. And so much so that if you do it for long enough, you get these sort of like, everyone's got this old plumber uncle that like gets up at 6 o'clock in the morning without setting an alarm. And that's for that reason, essentially, is he's just done it for so long that he's got used to it. So whatever you do, your body gets really good at. Now, that's hard for a lot of people to do. If everyone could do it, it would be great. But myself, for instance, sometimes I get in from work at 9, I have dinner, I like at least half an hour with the missus, like watching a bit of telly, having a bit of a chat. That's now 10:30, but I have to be up at 5 the next morning. Now, I like to get 7 hours sleep, but obviously I can't. So that routine, I wouldn't be able to get a routine for me. That wouldn't work. Likewise, if you think I'm getting up at 4:45 on the weekends, you've got another thing coming. Not going to happen. So the routine for that essentially wouldn't work for me. So even though it is highly effective, it's not one that I can apply. And it's not one that a lot of people can apply either, because, essentially it's hard to do. So even though it's really effective, sometimes it's got to be one that's overlooked.
Yeah, I think in that book by Matthew Walker, Adherence, Matthew Walker was saying that his book, Why We Sleep, that is probably the most important tip. And when I first read that, I tried to implement it straight away, but I kind of realized that, like I mentioned earlier on, I'm hurling late some nights, and then I'm up really early the next morning, and then the night after I'm trying to get to bed a little bit earlier and sleep in maybe an hour longer. The weekend I'll try to get up early, but I might be sleeping in an extra hour and a half. And if you stress about that, it's going to have that knock-on effect and make things worse. So I think it comes back to doing the best that you actually can without abusing that. And do you have one more, Chris?
Yeah, so just before we leave that routine, like another thing it's proper nerd, it's a real nerd topic within sleep, but it's chronotypes. And that is, some people are just designed to sleep at different times. So I am 100% a morning person. I like to be up early. I'm super productive before 10 o'clock, and then I drift off throughout the day and I become less productive. And I like to go to bed 10 o'clock usually. That would be my ideal. My missus, on the other hand, is the opposite. She considers herself a night person. She likes to go to bed a bit later and wake up a little bit later. So we kind of have to strike a balance between the two. Now, what that does is, if you're sleeping in line with your chronotype, then your sleep is a lot more effective. However, if you do it for long enough, your body does get a little bit more used to it. But effective sleep is around your chronotype as well. But unfortunately, modern society does not support both chronotypes. Anyone considered like a late person or a night owl tends to get pursued as lazy or not driven. But actually, they become really effective about 3 o'clock in the afternoon when most people are switching off. So that's something to consider. But a lot of the people I've met that say they're night owls actually just drink loads of caffeine in the evening, so that's why they stay up late, and they think that's why they lie in, and it's not their chronotype at all. It's just poor sleep habits. Yeah. But that's largely important for sleep quality. My last one is something I call the simples, and it's really individual. So without working one-on-one with someone, it's quite hard to discover. And it's something they've got to discover for themselves. But it is the individual stuff that keeps people awake at night. I had someone before who we couldn't figure out what it was that was waking her up. And when we sort of like tracked it, it was only on weekdays at 5 o'clock in the morning that she was getting woken up and couldn't get back to sleep. So why wasn't it the weekend? And when we dug into it a little bit deeper, it was the fact that she lived near a council yard and all the bin lorries were driving past her house at that time of morning. And she had the window open to try and cool the room down. And as such, the bin lorries made loads of noise and woke her up. But by the time she got to the window to check, if someone was out there making noise, they had already gone. So she couldn't put a finger on it. And it was only after she eventually woke up in time to hear them one morning that we realized that was a thing. And once we sorted that, it became a non-issue. So we could have done all the other stuff in the world, the decaf, the environment. If there's an individual problem going on that affects people, then that needs to be addressed. One thing that always gets a good laugh is what I have to deal with. So I'm a mouth breather and it's an insult to some people. They're getting called a mouth breather. Apparently it's an insult. I saw recently on something, they were like, "Oh, you damn mouth breather." So despite having a huge nose and massive nostrils, I breathe through my mouth when I go to bed. And if I do that, I wake up every couple of hours with a mouth like Gandhi's flip-flop. It feels like I've eaten a ton of sand before bed, and I cannot get back to sleep. So I can not drink caffeine, which I never do in the evenings. I've got a great environment. I manage my light. I wind down. I don't have a routine because I can't, but I can do all that and I still won't get a good night's sleep if I breathe through my mouth. So for me, I wear a nasal dilator, which is like a thing that some cyclists wear that push their nostrils out, enable them to breathe through their nose. Or it's the equivalent of the strips that go on the top of your nose, but it's a bit more effective. I actually have to have an extra large one of them with it on the widest setting as well. That's how big my nose is. So I have one of them on, but sometimes that's not enough, and sometimes I'll still breathe through my mouth. So I actually tape my mouth shut when I go to bed. I wear surgical tape, and I tape my mouth shut. And it's a thing. I'm not mad. It's a thing called mouth taping that people don't really talk about much because it's a little bit scary, but I don't really care. So I generally tape my mouth shut when I go to bed. I bet you're thinking, "Oh, my missus is so lucky," but I must be doing all right because I got a three week old anyway. But I tape my mouth shut and I shove it in my nose. So I'm able to breathe through my nose, and not only does that help me, but it also stops me from snoring, which helps my missus as well. And that is the individual thing that helps me get sleep. Now, everyone's a little bit different, and people have to identify that for themselves. But I can't do that for them. But things I've done in the past, it could be a noisy neighbour getting in from a night shift. It could be a barking dog. It could be the heating coming on, making that clicking noise. It could be a spring poking out your mattress that you roll onto. Partner that snores. Whatever it is, sometimes that's the thing that needs addressing more than anything else.
No, it's just something childish and funny after popping into my head the second you said that. I was like, right, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this podcast, I'm going to clip out that part where you said, "No, I tape my mouth and I shove it up my nose." No,
you can use that as the tagline.
I'm actually, I feel happy that you've mentioned this because I was nearly embarrassed about my kind of sleeping patterns the last couple of years, and I think I'm at 2 years now, or is it a year and a half? I went to the doctor eventually with my nose, and I realised that I basically have to. I'm on a waiting list to get an operation, and it was meant to get it done 2019 in August, and a bit of a complication, didn't get it done, and now coronavirus going to push that way back. But I have to get I don't even know what they're called. I have to get my nose basically chopped off a little bit on the inside, so I can open up my airways. So I do wear the nasal strips. But if I fall asleep in a plane or a bus or something like that, like it looked like I'm catching flies. And I always wake up. So I fully understand why you have to tape the mouth from somebody who's had experience with that. I haven't tried tape my mouth because the nasal strip does it for me as long as I'm not blocked. And I tried those things that you shove up your nose, the dilator things, but I just couldn't hack having something in my nose. It just didn't work. So interesting. But the second I put those nose strips on, my sleep quality just went through the roof.
And it's an individual thing, right? And that's exactly what I'm going down. You recognise it yourself. You had the sort of like the awareness to do it. And actually, and that's what made the difference. And that's what people need to understand. It's you've always got to figure out for yourself, a bit like nutrition and a bit like fitness. There's education, and that's what we're trying to do. Is just provide people with a few options and some examples of stuff that's worked before they might want to try, and then maybe a little bit of background knowledge. But actually, people need to go out there themselves and figure out stuff that's affecting them and approach it.
But I just wasn't aware. Like, I didn't know that nose strips were there for that, or I didn't know I had an issue. I just thought that was me, and I could never understand how Kate could sleep beside me with her mouth perfectly shut and not a peep out of her. And there's he trying to breathe for life and go to sleep. It was until a doctor I respect over in the States shared that he actually uses it, and then I just tried it. And I was like, oh my God, looking back now, like, until I got the operation, I'd be buying those nose strips until I get the operation. And the doctor even told me as well that the operation may not fix the problem, but he said it'll definitely improve my breathing, because sport has an effect on my sport as well.
Of course.
So like, if I have, even if wintertime, if you had a chest or cough or a bit of a runny nose or anything like that, my sport gets really, really hard because I have to clear all that first before I can actually breathe on the pitch. So it does have an impact, like. But I really like that though, the simple individual stuff at the end. So yeah, just to recap, Chris, caffeine, number 1. Environment.
Yeah, definitely. Honestly, if anyone takes anything from today, try that caffeine. Honestly, it will make a big difference.
Yeah, brilliant. You can control that, like, and you can control your environment. You can control the light within reason. We talked about that.
Yeah.
Winding down, routine, and the individual stuff. Brilliant, Chris. Absolutely fantastic. I think there's a plethora of stuff people can take away from this, but I suppose don't forget, like, don't try to take on all this at once. Baby steps. Don't think that your life is going to drastically change now just because you go to bed tonight and you tried a routine that Chris talked about. Take it step by step. That's quite important as well. It's not going to change overnight. Don't give up some people give up caffeine for two days and go, that didn't work. Well, you're still you're still having a withdrawal at that point, and you'll probably get a headache. So that's probably why you can't sleep. So try it for a couple of weeks and then let me know it doesn't work, and I probably won't hear from you, I imagine. Yeah, I agree. Sometimes with caffeine, some people don't feel right for a couple of weeks, like, depends on how much they drink. No. Yeah. Chris, anything else you'd like to add?
No, honestly, that's quite quick. The only other thing you could potentially talk about is alcohol. But so alcohol isn't good for sleep. And not just on the night that you drink alcohol, but if you binge drinking, it affects you for days due to it changes light sensitivity, and it basically it limits the amount of sleep you get, which is why alcoholics tend to get erectile dysfunctions because of the lack of testosterone. So, that's hugely important. I don't cover it because I end up going down rabbit holes with it in short conversations, so I try not to. But alcohol isn't helping anybody sleep. People say it helps them wind down, which it does, but it later affects your sleep as well. So there's a bit of a toss up between the two. For me, there's a better option. So get pissed at lunchtime instead of the evening. No, I'm just kidding. If you're going to drink a little bit earlier. Try lower alcohol drinks rather than the less alcohol you can drink. If you can reduce it down a little bit, then that would help. But alcohol's another thing like caffeine that is causing havoc on people's sleep, but people continue to consume anyway. But I don't not drink. I like a beer as much as the next person, but it's just something to be aware of that it's not helping.
Yeah, like I'm the exact same. It just, like, if I have an important week coming up or an important event and there is a night out where I don't have to go to it, or I could take it easy or whatever. As I said, I do like a drink myself, but it's just planning ahead to and being smart with that, because I know if I have a big night, like, it affects me for 3 or 4 days afterwards. It's a big one. There's a lot of research done on that as well. And so after environment, it was managing light, guys. It was winding down, routine, and then the simple individual stuff. And Chris, where can people find out more about you, or are you active on social media?
I am active on social media. I've been a little bit less in the last 3 weeks. Obviously, someone else has been taking up a bit more of my time. But I'm at Chris Bundell, so Bundell. no one else shares that name. So quite fortunately, that all my social media handles are at Chris Bundell, which is really cool. I also the gym I'm at, SC Vital Fitness. That's I put a lot of information out for them. All my content isn't just based around sleep. I do a lot of stuff based around S&C as well, because that's another side hustle of mine. Cool. But I do put a lot of stuff out on there, and they can get in touch. Anyone can get in touch with me whenever they like, or just give me a follow. And then even if you lurk in the dark for a year and then send me a message, I'm still more than happy to help anybody.
Excellent. And you have a website as well, Chris, don't you?
chrisbundell.co.uk. Again, not as active on that as I should be. It's still got some copy work that needs doing on it. But I do have that, and I've got a mailing list set up that I have some stuff ready to go on that I will be sending out soon. Cool.
I will put all those links in the show notes page anyway for people to give Chris a follow or find out more about what he does. Chris, thank you very much for coming on. I know this wasn't your first podcast today. You came straight off another one. So congratulations again on becoming a father, and we might have you back on in the future if we want to chat more sleep stuff. So brilliant.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, mate. Thanks.